Welcome, everybody, to Writing with Witches. My name is Leona Urbansky. This is our first episode of Writing with Witches, and my co host is.
I am Nicole Autumn, and here we are.
Here we are indeed. Uh, so, a little bit about the podcast, just so you know what you're diving into. Um, the two main things that we're going to be going over that are very clearly delineated within the title is writing and witchcraft.
Yes.
This episode is more about an introductory get to know us, what we've written, what we do, why we're doing this podcast, what you can expect with what we're doing with this podcast, all of that fun uh, back jacket cover kind of stuff so that you're
Yep.
not diving in head first without going, who are these people and why are they on this podcast?
Exactly.
So, just real quick before we get into the bios, because I know you're getting ready to do that. There's a couple of things that we're always going to cover in the podcast. Again, like I said, it's in the title. We're obviously going to cover writing. That covers the whole range of writing, not just writing itself, but we're going to be going into revisions. We're going into publishing. We're going into book cover design. We're going into different kinds of publishing. Um, all that fun stuff. And the other thing is we're also always going to have at least a small section. It will probably diverge into larger because we tend to talk about it a lot, is witchcraft. So
Yes.
there's always going to be some kind of witchcraft, witchy tip within each podcast. And that is enough of me blabbering. So we are going to introduce ourselves, and I made Nicole go first. So
Okay. So I am Nicole Autumn. I live outside of Washington, D.C. with my husband and my three kids. I typically um, write in the fantasy romance genre, I guess you can say. Um, I have been reading for mainly since middle school is when I first started like finding that love of reading. I've tried writing before in the past, never been really successful, kind of stalled out, and then really got serious about writing back in 2022, which is when I met Leona. And we swapped books and gave each other critiques, and we've kind of just had a friendship since then and just constantly giving work back and forth to each other and bouncing ideas off of each other. So, yeah, that's that's me in a nutshell.
in a nutshell, noted.
Yep.
Okay. I am Leona Urbansky. I have been reading and writing as long as I can remember. Um, live in the middle of the country, like literally the middle of the country.
Smack dab in the middle.
Yes, the heart of the U.S. Um, which it's not actually geographically the heart of the U.S. Just so people know. But anyway, uh, I've been writing as long as I remember. That said, I really only finished my first book a few years ago, and I decided I needed some critique that wasn't just my family. So I joined a writing server, and that's where I met Nicole. And like she said, we've been kind of trading manuscripts back and forth for, oh Lord, 2022, so at least 2 years now.
Yeah.
Um, and then once we found out that we were also both witches, it just kind of snowballed from there.
Yep.
So yeah, she can't get rid of me now.
I'm stuck with you, and that's okay. I'm all right with that.
I'm glad. Your lot in life to deal with me. It's okay. I say it to my family too.
Oh, same with my husband. I'm like, you're stuck with me forever now, bud. Like, that's the way it's gonna be.
You said yes, man. You're stuck.
Yep. I trapped you. And his response is always, "Oh no, I'm trapped."
That's a tragedy.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Let's see.
So the next thing we wanted to talk about was what we have written. And
Yep.
as the published author, again, I'm making Nicole go
Go
first.
first. So I have published 2 books that you can see back. Well, 3 technically. 3 books in a series. This is my Secret Society series. The first book being The Order Unbound, and it is about a 30-year-old librarian named Amy who finds a mysterious book in the archive area of her library, which new books don't come in and out of there. So when she finds it and notices it is written in a language she has never heard of, she turns to her best friend, Charles, and asks him for help. And from there, it kind of snowballs into her finding out a lot about herself, her family, and her best friend. And it is a dark fantasy and romance because it does tackle a lot of darker topics. There is a hefty trigger warning list. It snowballs into a lot of darker things, but it is also a romance. And I don't say dark romance because the love, oh my gosh, what's the word? The love interests aren't particularly toxic. At least I don't think. I mean, they definitely have their moments where you kind of want to smash them in the face with your fist, but overall, I mean, that's it. Every relationship though. So
Yes, 100%.
And then the second book, The Order Unleashed, is where she finds out that she is going to another world with a demon prince and has to learn how to navigate her relationship, the new things she has found out about herself, and dealing with this demon man. I don't want to say too much because it gets spoilery. And then the third one that has been published is just a small, almost like a slice of life novella, and it is Christmas time, and Santa makes a fun appearance. So I do like that part.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was definitely fun. Also, side note, for anyone that loves the 90s The Mummy with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, Amy is a sexy librarian. So just think about that.
A
If you're
plus
hesitating about
size
reading,
sexy librarian.
absolutely. We love
We
it.
love inclusiveness.
Absolutely. So any hesitation that you have should now be gone
Yeah.
about potentially reading these books because they are amazing.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I have a signed copy and I'm very happy about that.
Have I sent you the novella yet?
Not in print form, no.
Okay. I will
Did you
have to
print
get
it?
you that then.
Oh yes. If I knew it was in print form, I would have already ordered it.
Yeah. Well, no, because I want to have it signed for you.
Okay. I will accept that.
Okay. So now we get to talk about yours that you are going to publish hopefully sometime this year.
Yes, that is the plan.
Mm-hmm.
As we all know, the best laid plans. So I finished the first book in what I'm calling my Death Gate trilogy back in probably 22. 'Cause we hit the servers about the same time.
Yeah.
Um, I was attempting to do a traditional publishing route at the time. It did not work, obviously, or I would have already been talking about my book already being published.
Mm-hmm.
And I have come to the conclusion, due to other various life circumstances, that I will be doing an indie publishing route. Thank you, Nicole, for that inspiration
You're welcome.
with this.
I will take the credit for that.
Yes, absolutely, all yours. But yes, I am aiming to publish this in October is the goal. I may be doing a crowdfunding campaign on that. I will keep the podcast people updated on if and when that is occurring, as well as when I finally settle on a release date. But just in case you wanted to know what the book is actually about, And now that you've said this, I have to mention this. This book follows Brenna, a some 250-year-old elemental mage.
There you go. There you go. Yes.
Yeah,
That
he
is
had
a
to have
key
about
fact.
250. Yeah, it happens. Who comes home to find her daughter has been kidnapped, and she has to go find her. Side note, this does take place in a completely different world that has never heard of Earth. So this is not a portal fantasy. This is purely what I term high fantasy. Um, my best summary for people that don't want the whole back jacket cover is think Taken taking place in Lord of the Rings, with
Accurate.
Brenna, this elemental mage, taking the place of Liam Neeson and
Yes.
kicking way more ass.
She is a
No offense,
badass
I
and
love the
she
dude.
yeah.
Winning for the last 100 years, including coming across an old lover and dealing with old faces and new faces that she never thought she'd have to deal with again for reasons.
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 Spoilers
So
for
yeah, that
reasons.
is reasons. That is Fire Magic, book one of the Deathgate trilogy. The second book is written, so I promise you they will both be published. And then I do tend to think in trilogies, so I don't see this going past a book three. Although I will probably be writing more in this world since I basically already have the prequel trilogy written, thanks to He Who Shall Not Be Named.
He should not be
Destiny.
named.
I'm not gonna give him away.
Oh, of course not. I completely get that. And I would
I think
say,
that's a much better use of that.
yeah. And I would say if we're since you compared Amy to Catherine Wise's character, or Amy, wait, it's Catherine Wise, right? What's her
Rachel. You're thinking
Rachel?
Catherine
Oh my,
Zeta-Jones.
mixing up the two. Rachel Wise, she Brenna is very much Moraine from Wheel of Time. I'm not entirely sure in book form because I still have to read it. That's what I'm reading next after the series I'm reading currently. But based on the show, she is a lot like her, where they are very guarded. They keep a lot of information to themselves, but they are also very willing to do whatever needs to be done to save the people that they love. For sure.
I will accept that because if I wrote this book from any other perspective but Brenna, the only thing you would know about Brenna is she was a closed mouth hair trigger person that would fight to the death for the people that she loved. You just wouldn't know she loved them till they told you later.
Yeah,
Because she
exactly.
isn't going to say it.
Yep. She's not saying anything. It's like you will know when you need to know, and that may not always come from me.
Which does come back to bite her in the ass more than once.
A
As it
character
should.
flaw, but we love that.
For a 250-year-old elemental mage, I made her, in my best to make her very human.
That's good though. We like relatable characters.
So those
Oh,
are the books.
yes. So the next part is we can either do the witchy tip or why we're doing the podcast.
I say we do the witchy tip just to throw them for a loop.
Through the loop. Okay.
For the
So the
loop.
witchy tip, I believe, was candles, right?
Yes, I remember as a baby witch. And also, I feel like we should give him a little more background on why we feel qualified to give witchy tips.
Yes.
Um, I have been practicing for 4 to 5 years now, I guess. I'm not what I consider a baby witch anymore, but I'm a practicing witch. I'm also, well, I am not initiated. I am a practicing druid. Um, and I will also say, and here's your segue, that Nicole was kind of my mentor for a lot when I really first started practicing.
Nice.
I tried.
um, I have been practicing on and off for 10 years. Mainly solitary. I kind of work by myself. Really haven't found anyone where I've been to work with them. So it's just been me. Um, and I guess, like I said, I'm a little bit of a lazy witch, as in I don't use a lot of the extra tools and the big rituals and all the aesthetic things that you see online or you read about that you need. Um, so it's very much intention is there, light a couple candles, like we're going to talk about, and tarot has been my big thing that I use consistently in my craft. So, yeah.
Accidentally, why I got her to agree to a podcast.
Which, yes, literally divine intervention. They told me, like, an opportunity's coming. Just wait. A friend's coming with an opportunity. And I was like, what opportunity is this? What are these cards talking about? I was starting to go nuts because it was coming up in like every reading. I'm like, oh my God, I'm losing it. And then even a freaking like a TikTok video came up of some random person with no hashtags on their videos talking about, oh, there's an opportunity. I'm like, what opportunity? And then you write me out of nowhere, hey, do you want to do a podcast? And I was like, this is it. This is the opportunity.
Side note, I've actually been thinking about this for like 2 months.
Oh my
So
gosh, so a
I guess as
while.
soon as, yeah, and it took me that long to muster up the courage because I'm the person that hates to inconvenience people and
Same.
wasn't sure that, if I asked someone to do it, they would say yes, just to be nice kind of attitude.
Oh no,
That's
no.
me. No.
And I'm sitting here because they've been telling me about an opportunity coming for probably just as long, and I'm like, what opportunity? What am I not seeing? So apparently they're just like, just wait. We're waiting for her to pull the trigger here. Come on, we're waiting.
So kind of adding on to this, I do oracle decks versus tarot.
Mm-hmm.
And I have actually had, and I use a special, specific druid deck, or kind of that's my crossover.
Nice.
And I had the reversed fire dragon show up twice,
Oh wow.
um, which was weird. And I've had dragons continue to show up, and it's just in this deck, dragons tend to represent big life changes.
Ooh.
There's only 4 of them in the deck.
Oh wow. And you pulled them
And
twice.
I pulled the fire dragon 2 readings in a row, both times reversed.
Oh geez.
Was crazy. Um, I didn't pull him in my last reading, but in my last reading, I had actually said something to you by that.
Yeah.
So they were pushing me too, just in their
Yeah.
own way.
They're like, okay, let's go. Let's get this going.
Show on the road, lady.
Yeah.
Anyway, so witchy tip of candles.
Yes.
I put this in here because I remember, before I actually accumulated a small library of spiritual books, frantically searching Google for what color candles I should use for what occasion,
Yep.
worried to death, and finally seeing a tip that's like, it's okay, just use a white candle.
Yep. That is true. Yeah. White candles can pretty much be substituted for really any purpose. It's like just the intention in it. But I think black, I know some people may disagree. I also think black is something, a black candle could also be subbed, especially if you are doing more protective work. I think black candles are it. So I feel like
But I
it
mean,
could go either way with those ones.
one of the things that I read is black candles. One of the intentions you definitely put with them is to absorb the negative energy. So I would say definitely, yeah, for protection.
Yeah. And I
But
feel like
yes,
most
I
work,
agree it could still be used.
I mean, I feel like with any work, you should be protecting yourself. So I feel like that's where that black candle comes in because anytime you mess with any type of energies, pushing anything out, protection, protection, protection. And you could always instill that with that black candle.
And she mentions that in her book too.
I do. Don't conjure anything you can't get rid of. Okay?
um,
Facts.
and if you're still like, but I really, what I do to make myself feel better, I am a seamstress, so I have a superfluous amount of ribbon. I will
Yeah.
go and I will just tie the color of ribbon I want just to kind of give myself that little, okay, I've done a little bit more to make sure that this is my intention.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense
So
because even just having that color as a reminder while you are putting your intention there, it's that extra, just, how do I put it? Like, it's just reaffirming what you're putting into it.
especially if you are using the candles, um, if you're working with more than one presence. I work with four distinct, I'll say, presences
Yeah.
in my life. So being able to use the ribbon just to kind of help me remember, I specifically set that candle for that one and that candle for that one.
Yeah.
And then I'm not confusing myself. Like, I know they don't give a shit,
They're
but
like, we here, we're not confused. You're like, but for me.
exactly, right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was our witchy tip, candles,
Yes.
because you're in a witch's house when there's candles everywhere.
Yes. What is holding those books up? Two candles. I have a
Candles.
candle by my front door. I have a candle in my kitchen. I got them everywhere. If
Yep,
the lights go out at my house,
you're set
candles. we're set. We're good.
for sure.
So next up would be why we're doing this podcast. Um I think for us is probably just a way just to talk about how our processes of going through books, reading, writing, and sometimes it's not fun to just talk in your own, what's that word? You've used it before where you're like an echo chamber, and
Yeah,
opening that
for
up
sure.
to other people and hearing different opinions or, you know, just getting out there a little bit more.
And also, for those people that may not have a family that's supportive of their writing, um, you know, we can be one more voice for you to listen to instead of just having to listen to negativity all the time.
Yes.
I'm not saying we're the only ones by any means, but
No.
we're adding to the crowd.
Yes. A very supportive space. It's funny because my family's been supportive of my writing. They're like, "Oh, yay, that's great." And I'm like, "Don't read it. Don't read it." And they're like, "Why not? I want to read it." I'm like, "You will learn things about me you don't want to know."
It's that quote. You got to be real chill about a lot of things real fast.
A lot of weird things really fast.
Yes,
And
I was the person though that handed my mother my smutty fan fiction. Said, "What do you think?"
oh my
So
gosh, you have bigger balls than I do because I could never. My dad keeps asking to read my book, and I'm like, don't. Please don't read it. Please don't read it.
hand him the
You will look
special
at me
edition
differently.
with the particular pages cut out or blocked off.
Just take an
Hand him the
X-Acto
redacted
knife,
version. Yeah, hand him the
blacked
redacted
out.
version.
it's just going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of chunks missing. That book's going to go from like 300 pages to like 200, 175. And he's going to be like, this seems like there's stuff missing. There is.
There should be a scene here. All I'm
Yeah.
getting is some weird dialogue that's occasionally thrown in the middle of all these black pages.
It's like, I don't know what happened there. Printing press problem, I guess.
Who knew?
Oh my gosh.
That's totally fair. I think another reason that I wanted to do this, specifically this Writing with Witches podcast, is I feel like in today's literary world, you still see so many very, very stereotypical witches. And I'm not saying the stereotypes are entirely wrong. There are reasons behind what we do, but they have been so taken and subverted into, I can't scratch my ear right now, into into a lot of the books that are popular.
Yeah.
And I wanted to show people there are actual witches writing books with accurate depictions of witchcraft. I mean, obviously, Secret Society takes place on Earth.
Yeah.
In our world.
So mine, I guess, would be considered like low fantasy.
Low element of fantasy, yeah.
Yeah.
And while Brenna is not a witch per se, she is an elementalist, which is something I very much am. I work 4 elements are my primary thing. My craft is centered around those. So that's really expressed in the books, and I think we both definitely, when we were writing, took a view of we are going to represent us. I'm not going to say accurate, because you can't say anything's accurate with witchcraft.
Yeah,
because everyone has their own way.
Yeah.
In a fair way, with the good and the bad.
I would agree with that. I know for at least me, I wanted to incorporate things that you would use. Even though this is like a fantasy book, there are still elements that Amy comes in contact with and things that she has to learn that you would use if you were doing witchcraft in everyday life, like using herbs or just chants or, just the intention or thinking of things. It's taking that element and just kind of pushing it a little further to a little more accurate to what we would use, and not everything is like, I'm throwing a fireball at you. Like, because in real life that doesn't happen. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm guilty of it too. It'd be for the fun of it, but there are more realistic aspects that I did want to include. And I think you the same.
Well, and I love one instance, and I want to say it was in Unleashed, where you really brought modern witchcraft, because the witch literally whipped up the spirit cleansing potion, threw it in a spray bottle, and said, "Here you go."
Yeah, she literally mixed it up in a freaking solo cup.
Yeah, exactly.
She was like, I got this special blend, girl. Just let me sit here and mix this up real quick. Like, legit. And that's sometimes what you got to do,
Yeah.
And that little things like that where you just kind of throw stuff in is what's fun too.
Like, literally, I recently did a spell jar, and it was for the equinox, I think. And I totally spaced. We were sitting around a fire pit. I totally spaced on bringing actual candle holders. And my friend had brought the little taper candles, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, what the hell? So I had a bottle of spell jars that had like the foam inserts to keep them safe,
Mm-hmm.
I took a foam insert, took my knife that I always carry, scraped out some holes in the foam, shoved the candles in, and I had a candle holder, You just...
Sometimes witchcraft is the most DIY thing I have ever seen. You're like, well, it's not perfect. DIY. Yeah, it's like it's not perfect, but hey, it'll work. In a pinch, it's gonna work.
It's well, that's what you said earlier. It's about the intention. It's not
Yeah,
about the flair. It's not about the
the
fancy
aesthetics.
sculpture handles or you know. I mean, my spell jar was literally I had some little Pusheen witch spell jars, and I used it because it's adorable.
I love that.
But it's still a spell jar. I'll show it to
Oh
you
yeah,
sometime. It's really cute.
yeah.
And like my friend that's also a witch that was practicing the spell jar with me that night, she's like, "Oh my god, that's adorable!"
That is the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Exactly. I have one more.
Oh my
So,
gosh. Well, that kind of led
anyway,
us into that kind of leads us into why we write and how we integrate our craft into our books. So, I know for me, I've already said like I like taking some of the more realistic things that I would do or witches in general would do and putting that into my books, like mixing up something in a solo cup and getting it done. Um, so that's really what I like doing, along with the more fun fantasy elements of doing things we can't necessarily do. Even though I wish we could, that'd be pretty sick.
which is exactly what the newest Portal fantasy I'm writing's about. But
Yep.
anyway, I mean, I kind of did that. You can definitely see literally the elements of
Mm-hmm.
witchcraft in Brenna's elemental magic. Side note, I didn't really touch on it very strongly. It's mentioned a couple of times, but there is actually Brenna is what I call in that world a mage born, which means she was born with soul magic. And there is a whole other line of magic in that world that is called witchcraft, which is actually based on our witchcraft that we do here, but they're able to access that magic in that world a little bit more. Um,
Yeah.
I remember in one, it's a little bit of a spoiler alert. Mages are definitely a minority, discriminated against group in this high fantasy world, and witchcraft was often used to suppress the fact that someone's a mage born
Gotcha.
in that world. I don't mention it a lot because we're in the world of the mages. You know,
Yeah.
we're reading from that world, and I tend to write about minority groups. I'm realizing lately, it's like I've experienced it or something. I don't know.
It's like I've experienced this before.
Right? Um, so that is actually I meant to have that be a bigger piece of the pie in Deathgate, and it's this whole other line of magic that I have a lot written about in my notes,
Yeah.
but it's not in the book.
You're like, maybe.
Well, to be fair, Brenna doesn't really know about it. I mean, she's
Yeah.
seen the consequences of it, but as a mageborn, why would she have ever needed to practice what she would call witchcraft?
Yeah. Well, you did say, so are your other books taking place in the same world? Because then, that could be a potential.
So the trilogy, time wise, that's going to be coming after this one is definitely you're going to be seeing a lot more. It's still being written from the point of view of a mage. Cough, keen, cough. Um,
I
I
fucking
can't
love
really
him,
cough
though.
right now. You will love him. He is the sweetest, dumbass, smart man ever. Anyway,
We love that.
um, so you definitely see a lot more witchcraft because the discrimination has just gotten worse after what happens ultimately with the Death Gate. And
Okay.
you're going to get that even from the end of the first book. What's going to happen? It's already bad.
Yeah, it's already
Against
bad.
humans, it's already bad. It's no surprise, I promise. Once you read the book.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean that will probably definitely come in to the trilogy to that world more. That said, the next trilogy being written in that world is actually the prequel to the Death Gate.
Okay.
But we'll get there. I told you, tend to think in trilogies. That doesn't
Yep.
mean we don't always keep coming back to the same world.
Yeah. Well, I know, like, for mine, I know a lot of the books that I am writing, I do want it to take place in that same world that I've built, essentially. The multiverse, I guess you could say.
It's your multiverse.
It's my multiverse.
It's your second area.
But that's kind of the ultimate plan, is to kind of have everything all in one world. So what happens in one series will still make sense if you've read it or pick it up from somewhere else. Which I say series, but really it is kind of a trilogy too. But because of the novella, I'm like, technically four. It's a series.
It's 3.5.
3.5. Yep.
That's how they assign it on Goodreads, right? It's like
Yep.
point 1, point 2, point 3.
Yep. The third one is technically 2.5. So there we go.
But it's definitely, I wouldn't call it one of like the throwaway novellas.
There is definitely substance to it.
Shit goes down.
Shit goes down that was touched in book 1 and book 2 that I really didn't have anywhere else to wrap it up in. And I was like, well, I don't want to leave loose ends. So, although it doesn't affect the overall storyline, like the main plot, it definitely affects everyone there.
Yeah, no. It's definitely you. Even once book 3 is out, you still need, like, I get reading book 2.5 right now just to, fill the need,
Mm-hmm.
literally. But even once book 3 comes out, you need to read the novella because otherwise you're gonna like have an idea of what happened, but
It
there's
is
some
touched on in
serious
like the
plot.
first, yeah, it's touched on in like the first chapter of book 3, where I kind of just essentially it's what happened last episode situation, like
Yeah,
first chapters, like this is what happened, this is how we're dealing with it. So if you decide not to read it, you still kind of know what's going on, you just don't have all the details.
but Secret Santa,
Oh my god, I love that Santa.
that pun
I
just
don't
came
know
into my head 30 seconds ago. I had to
I
use it.
don't know where it came from when I wrote that, but I was just like, Santa knows some shit. So he knows stuff.
It's Santa.
Yeah. I mean, if magic is real, why wouldn't Santa be real? I'm just saying. If I'm just saying.
I will always think of that Santa though closer to the oh lordy, is it just the Guardians
Oh, are you talking
movie
about
with
Rise of the
Jack
Guardians?
Frost? Yes, thank you. Yeah,
Yes.
with Jack Frost. That's the Santa I see.
Yep. 100%. That's kind of the
All
vibes
the
I was getting.
tattoos.
He's just like, I know stuff. What's going on? Okay, so next thing would be what inspires us.
Oh, obviously, escapist fantasies for me because I can't seem to write a book based in this world. But I'm gonna let you talk more about yours first.
Well, I mean, for me, my a lot of my inspiration comes from music. And I can thank my husband a lot for that because he is the music guy where he's constantly trying to find new songs, new artists, and stuff like that. And anytime he gets one he thinks I'll like, he's sending it to me. So I'm getting flooded with new music on a weekly basis. So I always have something new that's kind of gets my imagination going, just listening to lyrics and mainly when I'm driving or, just kind of zoning out, cleaning and listening to music. That has been my big inspiration. So I kind of just go off from there.
She also does give you her playlist.
I do. I haven't had one surprisingly for this book, which is probably why it's going so slow. I have not made a playlist for this book. normally I have a
Good
playlist
on your
made and I
husband,
just,
man.
huh?
Good on your husband about that. Where's the music?
I know. Well, and that's the thing is he sends it to me, but then I'm like, well, this one's kind of not really the vibes for what I'm working on. There's definitely ones that he sent me. I'm like, oh, this will work for this one that I'm gonna work on after this, or this one, and this one.
Tell him he needs to go back, reread the book so he's getting the correct vibes.
He's never read them. I keep telling
Oh, well,
him,
then he needs to read them, period.
I know, and I'm like, you need to read them. And he's like, oh, I don't really read. I'm like, fine, then let me just go do an audiobook for you real quick. You could just listen to me blab. You do that on a daily basis. So let me just
That's
record
fair.
myself reading it to you.
Oh, that actually reminds me. I am still going forward. I'm looping back just a little bit. For my release, I am planning on releasing an audiobook with the print and ebook, just so
Ooh.
people know. That is one reason it is waiting until October, because me and the friend that has I've somehow bribed, I don't know how. It was kind of like me asking you, do you want to do a podcast, when I brought up like doing an audiobook. She's like, I'll help. I'm like, what?
You're like,
Um
oh,
yeah,
okay.
exactly. We have been trading audiobook tips back and forth, like how we're going to construct our little sound studios, and what equipment we need to buy. And anyway, so I will be
That's what this
releasing
was for.
that's totally fair,
Yeah.
an audiobook version of Fire Magic, because um kind of hits close home to me, honestly. My husband hasn't read anything I've written because he has a reading disability.
Okay.
um Both of my children are special needs and find it difficult to read. And I also just know a lot of people out there. I mean, like you listen to audiobooks on a regular. I don't, but that's
Yeah.
just me. I prefer the print. I have nothing against audiobooks. I like that tact. I don't even like ebooks though. So
I won't lie. For the longest time, I was like, I will only read like paperbacks, like in my hand books. Like, I want the book. And then my husband got me a Kindle and Kindle Unlimited. And next thing you know, I'm sitting here, I'm just blowing through books. Like, I was reading them so quick. And then eventually I got like an Audible subscription. And then I'm like, well, I can do this and I can clean. Like, this is giving me the ability to like zone out while I clean and I'm not focusing on it. So anytime I'm doing like busy work around the house, cleaning, cooking, or whatever, that's normally when I'm listening to the audiobook. So it literally takes me like, well, the books I'm listening to now are like 26, 27 hours. Like, they're crazy long. So normally it takes me like a month to get through one audiobook.
it's fair.
But I need to start reading some of my TBR because I do have some physical copies that I need to get through. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I literally have a Barnes and Noble nook that sits on my dresser, that when I need to read something that I can't get in print, like Nicole is not the only author that I beta read for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will either read it on my desktop or on my Nook. I find it hard to read on my phone. I did that just recently the other day for reasons. Um, I just don't. I can do it. I just don't. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
And like I said, no shade to the people that like audiobooks. If that's your thing, I nothing against you. That is purely a personal preference.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of fun to mess with the librarians at my local library, because I get so many interlibrary loans. And they're like, Leona, just just go on Hoopla. I'm like, but I want to hold it.
I want I want to be able to smell the pages.
Yes, the dead wood,
Yes.
dead trees, dead trees and ink.
Yeah.
It's my vibe.
So, what process do we use when we write? Um, I am a pantser. I don't plan
She's
anything.
absolutely a pantser.
100%. I don't know what is going to happen. You can ask me, hey, what's happening in 2 chapters from now? I couldn't tell you. I don't know if there's going to be new characters. I don't know if someone's dying. I don't know anything. It is just tippy tippy tap until it just comes out.
See, but here's the thing I love about your books. I know this about your writing, but I've never seen your characters make a choice that wasn't in keeping with their character.
Oh, well, thank you. I try to keep
So,
it. So when it comes to my characters, I try to make them as fully fleshed out as I can, right? They have fears, they have passions, they have hobbies. There's things that they like and they don't like. So I try to make them almost as real in my mind as possible so that when I am writing, their voice sticks out. It's not blending together. So that is the hard part of being the pantser, is trying to keep that consistent voice per character, which of course my first one, and there's 4 main characters that we go between, Amy being the main one, but all 3 guys get there to speak their piece occasionally.
so okay, so that's a question though. What what comes to you first? The story plot or the characters?
The characters, 100%, it's the characters first. So it's typically like I'll find like something will inspire a scene in my head and I'm like, okay, well, who are they? And from that point, and I use the Sims to make them so I can see them first, because like it's kind of like a dream, where you can kind of see that there's people there but there's no real features. And
Mhm.
that's where I'm like, okay, well, what do they look like? What are their, that's when I get into like character creation mode. And that is what fuels the storyline, is who they are as people and how they would react to certain situations that may arise and stuff like that. So
See, I would
characters
have
are
never
first and foremost.
I would never guess that because your stories are really plot driven.
They are, yeah. But mostly, I feel like if you don't have good characters, it doesn't matter how good the plot is. If you don't like them,
That's
you gotta like the characters. If you don't like them
or
and
you
the
gotta hate
plot
them
is
enough
good,
to keep reading.
yeah, it's just you're like, I don't want to keep reading. I don't like the main character. I don't like the love interest, or the villain. Even if you really dislike them, sometimes you don't really like. I don't like this guy at all, or her, whoever.
And now I must know what happens to them.
To who?
Whoever.
Oh,
Good
I don't
guy,
know.
bad guy, whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You gotta be able to get the reader to be like, okay, I really don't like this person, but something about them has my attention,
yeah.
and I need to find out what happens.
See, and then you run into the issue that I've seen a lot of people come up with is, oh, well, the character's just annoying or one note. And that is something that I've noticed with the books that I have read. For the first 3 books in the series, like they took one main flaw and that was their entire personality. Oh, she's clumsy. So she's clumsy for 3 books. And I'm like, can we do something different, please? I'm sick of this shit. So that's where I feel like making a fully fledged character first just kind of helps everything move along a lot easier.
That's fair. Yeah, I guess mine is this. I think the characters do come first for me as well, but like you said, they're telling the story as they come.
Yeah.
Like I can't speak for Fire Magic because to be fair, this story's been percolating in my head since 2003.
Yeah. So you've had a lot of time to plan it in your head.
But Silver Eyes, one of my other projects, Skitter, the protagonist in that book. No, it wasn't Skitter that came to me first. It was our heroes.
Yeah.
because I found the black tiger. I remember showing you that picture. I was like, isn't that cool? Now I want to make a were-tiger.
Yep, I do remember that. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, our hero says a were-tiger in Silver Eyes. Eventually that'll come out. Um,
I'm looking forward to that one.
so I'm looking forward to writing the second book, but I need to finish Deathgate. I need to
Yes.
focus.
We got to
Well, first,
minimize the working projects.
too late. Whoops.
Oopsie.
So yeah, it's the that's they come to me, but I don't really get to know them until they start telling me their story.
Yeah. That's fair. I would say
Yeah.
the same. Yeah. Because at first,
So
like,
then,
go ahead.
no, it's fine. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, with Amy, for example, like, I knew she was. I kind of had a vibe for who she was, but I didn't know specifics. So it was okay, I know what she looks like. I know she likes to read. She's a librarian. Like, the basic, like, character profile stuff. But then, there's the fears that come in, and you don't learn those things until way later.
Yeah.
So, like, even with her, like, she doesn't have a traumatic backstory. She had a fairly good life growing up. Like, she came from a good home, loving parents, you know, and I didn't know that until like halfway through the book. I'm like, oh, okay, so she's no
Mostly well
tragic
adjusted.
backstory. Like, this is so well adjusted. Like, she lived a normal everyday life. Okay, cool. And then, we have our other characters that are like, ooh, I am sorry you went through that. That's rough.
Someone should have called somebody about that.
Someone should have called Child Protective Services on your parents. Like, ASAP. Like, 100%. So, yeah, the process is very much learn a character, but they tell me the rest.
Yeah, no, and I mean, while Fire Magic may have been sitting in my head since 2003, I didn't actually start writing it till like 2021. And I found out things about the characters as I wrote that I didn't know. Like, that particular character he was supposed to just be a friend.
Yep.
And he showed up, and Brenda's like, that's more than a friend, And I'm like, what?
That's my man right there.
Yes, that's basically what's happened. And that changed a whole lot of stuff. And then that particular man can't stay mad for his life at this woman.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating because I had that planned.
You were like, God damn it, they changed everything.
I had a whole little epilogue scene written already, and yeah, that's no longer applicable.
You're like, well, scratch that.
Because unfortunately, he is a well adjusted person who is not emotionally constipated like Brenna, that actually talks
Yeah.
about his feelings.
Nice.
Lucky for him, not for me.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's less drama.
Right? It's like, we need the drama. We can't if it's just two well adjusted people, then this is gonna be boring to read. We need the drama. The tea.
I apologize if you keep seeing me mess with my finger. And they're gonna know exactly who they are when I call them out on it. I do self-defense classes, and a particular person jammed my index finger pretty good last night.
Oh.
So it hurts a little. So I apologize if you see me fidgeting, that's why.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
I do fidget,
understandable.
but this is more than normal.
You're like, ow.
Yeah, I'm like trying to pop the finger subtly and not
Oh,
not succeeding. And if
that's
they ever
rough.
see this podcast, they know exactly who they are.
Yeah. So next up would be
So
book
anyway,
reviews,
book reviews, yay.
which I'm gonna let you start
Um,
with that because I feel like your book reviews are gonna be far more in depth and critically thought out, and mine are gonna be like, I was there for the vibes. It was good times.
okay. All right. So the book I finished most recently was book Lord, I think it's like 14 or 15. I'd have to look it up. Disney Twisted Tales. And if you've never heard of the Disney Twisted Tales, if you're a Disney fan at all, you probably have. They are not one continuous series. Um, it is literally what it says. They took one of their these, usually animated, changed one thing in it, and let the story roll from there.
Okay.
If you're a Disney fan, they are a lot of fun to read. There are definitely some that are better than others, but all of the authors, there were multiple authors that work on the series. Elizabeth Braswell, no, Liz Braswell, Elizabeth Lim, Jen Calanita, Farah Rashan, Mary Mancusi. Oh, and I think there's a fifth one that just started. She's writing the Lilo and Stitch one and the Moana one, and I can't think of her name. I will put it like down here later so that
Yes.
I can do them all justice. Um, so the one that I just finished was Sally's Lament, and if you know Disney movies at all, I'm sure you can guess where this one is going.
Oh yes.
Um, I am not a huge Nightmare Before Christmas fan. I have nothing against it. It's just not one of my favorite movies, which is odd, I
Fair.
know, for this community. Um,
I do love that
but
movie.
it's not a bad movie. It's just not ever going to rank up with some of my other Disney movies that I enjoy. So,
That's fair.
but the twist in this one is, since I'm not going to spoil anything, because this movie's been out for I don't know how long.
Since
Um,
the 90s.
there you go. It's in the scene where Jack is doing his lament, and he's walking through the graveyard after he summons Zero to his side. And you know Sally is leaning against one of the gravestones listening to him.
Yeah.
What happens, instead of her just listening and him continuing his lament and, yada, 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 she leans against a gravestone a little too hard and it just crumbles. And he
Okay.
sees her there. And they start to talk. And they so this sorry, Sally's Lament is written by Mary Mancusi.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of her first books that was actually released of the Disney Twisted Tales anyway in the US. Her other books, oddly, were mostly released in Australia and the UK. Um, I now have an Amazon UK account and an Amazon Australia account in order to get all of the Disney Twisted Tales. So I am a completionist. So I've read her other books before, so I knew going into this that this was going to be a good one. Um, so the relationship between Sally and Dr. Finkelstein
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
is portrayed very differently in the book than in the movie that I remember as much as I remember of the movie. But I mean, also the kids movie, it's kids movies. It's much more lighthearted for all of the themes that it touches on with
Yeah.
Halloween Town. Um, it's definitely more adult abusive relationship. Um, just in isolationist, you have to take care of me kind of way, not at all in a sexually abusive or physically abusive way, but you can definitely see kind of where she's pulling that from the movie from what I remember. I
Yeah.
need to rewatch that movie now.
Yeah. Yeah, I
um
can see that. It's more like the mental aspect of it.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So this gravestone crumbles, Jack sees her, and they end up talking on Spiral Hill. And he's like, this was a good talk. Thank you for listening, Sally. This is just what I needed. And he goes home. And Sally's like, I really should take advantage of my freedom for the night because, as we know, she, scurried away and ran away from Dr. Finkelstein at the beginning of the movie in order to be part of Halloween night. So she's like, I'm going to ex- keep my freedom for a little bit. And she ends up taking Jack's place in that she follows Zero into this clearing with all of the holiday trees and finds Christmas Town.
Okay.
So she is the one that follows. I don't remember if Zero went to Christmas Town in the movie or not.
No, he
I
didn't.
Okay. Well, he does in this one. Um,
Okay.
she ends up following Zero to Christmas Town because she like opened the door a little bit and she's like, no, I shouldn't. And she started to close the door. It didn't quite latch, and Zero stuck his little red nose in, and and so she
Oh,
had to go get him
yeah.
because it's a dog.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's her discovering Christmas Town, and I think Mancusi does a really good job of moving the whole plot point from Jack fuddling things up in Christmas Town to Christmas Town was messed up
Yeah.
already.
Was it?
Didn't need Jack to fuddle with it in this book. Uh, it I really really enjoyed it. For all that I'm not a huge fan of the movie, this was really a good twist on it. I don't want to give too much more away than this because I don't want to spoil the rest of the book. But Sally's exploration of her freedom and spoiler alert a little bit, her eventual liberation coming about of her own will and not solely focusing on her romance with Jack. There is the romance, and it's very well done. I love Mancusi for this. She also wrote the Robin Hood one from the one where there were foxes.
Okay.
That one is an excellent one too. Anyway, that she does romance really really well without it being, well,
Smutty.
what you write.
That's fair.
Nothing but against what you write, but it's Disney.
Yeah. It's very PG.
Yes, there we go. There we go. That's what I was going for. So yeah, it's I really enjoyed it. The ending followed through on everything that you wanted and hoped for with it. The character growth, both with Sally and Jack, and the characters you meet in Christmas Town. And I feel like Santa was a much more reasonable person in this book than he was in the movie. Granted, I know in the movie all you saw about him was when he was kidnapped.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, also, I just thought about this. You don't see Oogie Boogie at all. Like he is a
Really?
non-player in the book.
That's that's crazy because he is such a big part of the movie.
Yeah.
Huh.
Tell me how I know Oogie Boogie was a big part of the movie when I haven't seen it in forever.
Because it's everywhere. Even anything Nightmare Before Christmas, if there is a Jack or a Sally, there is an Oogie Boogie too.
No, actually, how I know this? Because he has a whole song. Because I have listened to Voice Play, the a cappella group, play it so many times and
Hey, I
thoroughly
mean, that's
enjoy it.
one way.
So yeah, if you like Disney, especially if you like the Night Before Christmas movie, if Oogie Boogie is your favorite character, you will be disappointed. But um, it's definitely worth reading, in my opinion. Go in with light expectations of PG romance and a lot of character growth for Sally and Jack without messing up an entire holiday.
Well, that's good. Because, you know,
And sending
messing up
kids.
Christmas kind of sucks. So, the book that I had just finished, literally, I think 2, 3 days ago, was I have been reading The Zodiac Academy um, by Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti. which I know this book series is very popular. A lot of people have read it. Um, and I am on books. Well, I read book 6, which is The Fated Thrones. And I'm not entirely sure how much to go into this because it is the 6th book and a lot of stuff happens. But not to see so much on the plot because I am listening to it. Um, and the narrators are Bridget and Jake Bordeaux. They're a married couple, and I just have to say, beautifully done. Like, I feel like they are the gold standard of narrators. They are amazing. The amount of different voices they do and the way they can capture emotion, because I know we've all listened to those terrible audiobooks where the narrator is very hard to listen to.
I'll cross my fingers that I don't end up in that bucket.
Oh my, no, I don't think you would. There are just some that are, I feel like it's more so the older books that you tend to find this in. Like when I was listening to Dracula at one point, I think it was like last October, and the narrator was, there was nothing particularly wrong, but it was just, it was hard to get through. It was very one note the whole time.
They were just reading the book.
Yeah, exactly. And they fully act it out. So it is, they're amazing. So, but with this book, there is some character growth in there for both of the main female characters because they're a set of twins that basically were fae, didn't know they were fae, lived in the mortal world, and has been taken to Solaria, which is the fae world, which is essentially like copy and paste what we have here. But magic is there. Everything's names are just slightly different. Like a Ferrari is a Ferrari. I won't lie, that seems a little corny in my book, but it's fine. I can look past it. But in this particular, huh?
I want to see a Ferrari show up in your book now.
Oh my god, no, thank you.
Anyway, continue.
Anyways, but it's just interesting because at this point, if you've read the first book, it says right on the cover it's a bully romance, which there are a trigger warning list, I would assume. I don't know, I haven't read like the physical copy, but there are a lot of trigger warning based things that happen. And it starts off, you know, two girls that don't know where they're from and come to a new world, and the people that are supposed to rule this country are no longer supposed to rule it now because they showed up in their princesses type of thing. And they bully the shit out of these girls. And at this point, a little spoilery, they're all friends. I mean, 6 books in. And they kind of stick their necks out for each other, which is nice to see in the character growth in that situation, and new romances blossoming between characters you never expected. And I think the writing, like I said, I can't speak to so much on the physical copy. From what I've heard, the actual grammar and flow of writing in the actual books are not the best. But I can't really speak to that because I've been listening to it. And like I said, the narrators are doing an amazing job. Yeah, I mean, I like the books. I've kept with it, probably thanks to the narrators. There are definitely times where I'm just like, man, these characters can't catch a break. Nothing good is happening. And at that point, I'm like, can we just get one good thing to happen, please? Like, and this book, it does. At the end, there are some good things that happen. And I'm like, thank God. I need something here. Give me a nugget.
This shit keeps piling on.
That is, honestly, it's like, if it's not one thing, it's another. And it just keeps piling on and going. And I'm just like, sweet Jesus. These poor characters, they were going through it. But yeah, so that was the book that I had just finished. And I just started the 7th one because I'm trying to get through this book series because I do want to listen to The Wheel of Time or read it, whichever one I can get my hands on.
We need to do a buddy read on that.
I'm just looking forward to it because, like I said, I was watching the show And I'm the person that I will watch the show before I read it, because then I feel like the books will fill in the gaps on things that I may not have
Yeah,
understood,
that's
things
fair.
I've missed, or whatever. Or at that point, I don't know, understanding more of what the characters are thinking from the book, because you can't really hear their thoughts,
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
it's so much harder.
Yeah, you're filling in the gaps essentially. And now that the show has been canceled, which really makes me upset. I'm like, now I have to know what the hell happens, because you can't leave me hanging like that. So I'm like, now I have to read these, which I know, I think, like I said, it's a 12-book series. And like the last three, Brandon Sanderson, I believe, actually finished them
Yeah.
for him because he had passed away. So,
My brother's a
I,
huge fan of the books. That's why I know that.
oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm really wanting to get to those. So I'm like trying to listen to these ones as fast as I can.
Well, let me know when you're finished with Zodiac Academy, and I will pick up the first book for Wheel of Time, and we can read that together if you
Yes.
want.
Oh, I'm down for that. Okay, so next up is where we can be found, since we're going to be wrapping up our first episode. Um, we do have a Discord server, Writing with Witches. All links will be posted down below, so you can just click find us wherever you go. So it's Writing with Witches on Discord, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Bluesky, the whole 9 yards. Um, I have an author site that will also be linked down below. You can find me on TikTok, uh, literally everything I just named already, as Nicole Autumn author, or author Nicole Autumn, one of the two. You can find me pretty much everywhere under that name.
As an addendum to the podcast itself, we will be publishing to as many podcast sites as we know about. So, obviously, video podcasts will be getting posted to YouTube. My understanding is that Spotify does video podcasts now too. I will be posting us there as well. But, normal Spotify, Google Podcast, the Apple Podcast, you're going to be able we're going to be giving you a link to our website. You're going to be able to stream directly from our website if you so prefer. Feel free. Um, then for my author stuff, Leona Urbansky, I'll have a link to my website. Again, like Nicole said, you're going to be able to find me in all the places that she also named.
Yep.
I also do have a separate site for my book reviews because I do those on a weekly basis. So I will put the link down here. I have a website. I also have a Facebook page for my book reviews that come out, and also a YouTube channel where I will be doing other book reviews that are not covered here, since I just
Yep.
gave a book review here. Um, and then if you need to reach out to us, our email is writingwithwitches@gmail.com. Again, I will have all the links below for us, I'm sure,
Yep.
once I finish editing.
Yep. Links to all the social medias, email, and books we may have mentioned, or all that good stuff will be linked below.
And just a tiny little preview for the next episode. I know we kind of talked about it a little bit, but we're starting what we're calling our book writing arc next episode. And the first subject we're going to be talking about is brainstorming. So you're going to
Yeah.
get to listen to us lay out how we brainstorm stuff as I drop my fidget toy.
Yeah. That is fun.
So
Like I said, I normally have one sitting on my desk, but I think my toddler. Oh, nope.
here it
Mine's right
is.
here. But mine's noisy, so I try
I've
not
been
to.
trying to keep it away from the mic.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Like
grab it
mine
now so I
is
can show you.
mine is very
Mine's just,
noisy.
I'm sure you recognize these
Oh yeah, the little
little
magnets.
magnets.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been doing this the whole time. Anyway,
This is what helps me brainstorm when I am stuck. Just sitting here
so
fiddling.
there's a little preview for you.
Yep, there you go.
Alrighty, so we will wrap this up, and thank you all for listening. Yeah, I'm from the Midwest. I know I said y'all.
Yeah. No, no. Oh no, I won't do the accents because I'll go on a whole rabbit hole with that. But yes, thank you for watching, and hopefully you guys decide to stick around and come back for our second episode.
Yep. So we'll
All
see
right.
you next time.
Bye.